Hey everyone, my name's Walter, and we're back here to laugh at someone who is hopefully more shameful than any of us. What Elliot did itself isn't funny, but it's impossible not to laugh at him after reading My Twisted World. I'll link you to the first video in case you haven't seen it, but Elliot Rodger is the so-called virgin killer of Isla Vista, California. He had a big elaborate plan, but he pretty much didn't follow it at all. Well, let's get started with Elliot Rodger's Most Shameful Moments, Part 3. Last time we talked about the infamous college party where Elliot got drunk and made an ass of himself, and then he got beat up after he tried to push girls off a ledge. Well, this is about his college experience up until then. Let's start with him moving in and getting used to college life. Content warning, we're going to have some racism here. There was in the other videos as well, but there's more of it this time. First, he claimed to be traumatized by hearing a couple having sex upstairs the first night, but acknowledged that that was the kind of environment that he was there for. My first week turned out to be very unpleasant, leaving a horrific first impression of my new life in Santa Barbara. My two housemates were nice, but they kept inviting over this friend of theirs named Chance. He was a black boy who came over all the time, and I hated his cocksure attitude. Inevitably, a vile incident occurred between me and him. I was eating a meal in the kitchen when he came over and started bragging to my housemates about his success with girls. I couldn't stand it, so I proceeded to ask them all if they were virgins. They all looked at me weirdly and said that they had lost their virginity long ago. I felt so inferior as it reminded me of how much I had missed out on in life. Damn it, Elliot, how are you going to ask your new roommates that? I mean, even if they were virgins, they wouldn't tell you. I do like how he said they looked at him weirdly because that's exactly what I would have done. And then this black boy named Chance said that he lost his virginity when he was only 13. In addition, he said that the girl he lost his virginity to was a blonde white girl. I was so enraged that I almost splashed him with my orange juice. I indignantly told him that I did not believe him, and then I went to my room to cry. I cried and cried and cried, and then I called my mother and cried to her on the phone. How could an inferior, ugly black boy be able to get a white girl and not me? I am beautiful, and I am half white myself. I am descended from British aristocracy. He is descended from slaves. I deserve it more. I tried not to believe his foul words, but they were already said, and it was hard to erase from my mind. If this is actually true, if this ugly black filth was able to have sex with a blonde white girl at the age of 13 while I've had to suffer virginity all my life, then this just proves how ridiculous the female gender is. They would give themselves to this filthy scum, but they reject me? The injustice. Okay, so Elliot is already off to a great start in his college experience. He just asked his roommates if they were virgins, then ran off to his room to cry to his mom all night. I don't think he was quiet when he did these kind of things either. Makes me wonder if he actually said all the racist shit to his mom, or if he just misrepresented the situation. After that, he got a couple roommates that he didn't have any problems with. It must be really weird to be one of Elliot's ex-roommates, because he ended up stabbing his roommates to death for essentially no reason. My father drove up to Santa Barbara to meet me a few days later. The two of us went to lunch at a restaurant in the Camino Real Marketplace, an area that I often frequented. When we sat down at our table, I saw a young couple sitting a few tables down the row. The sight of them enraged me to no end, especially because it was a dark-skinned Mexican guy dating a hot blonde white girl. I regarded it as a great insult to my dignity. How could an inferior Mexican guy be able to date a white blonde girl while I was still suffering as a lonely virgin? I was ashamed to be in such an inferior position in front of my father. When I saw the two of them kissing, I could barely contain my rage. I stood up in anger and I was about to walk up to them and pour my glass of soda all over their heads. I probably would have if father wasn't there. I was seething with envious rage and my father was there to watch it all. It was so humiliating. I wasn't the son I wanted to present to my father. I should be the one with the hot blonde girl, making my father proud. Instead, my father had to watch me suffer in a pathetic position. Life is so cruel to me. When I said my farewell to father before he drove home, I felt absolutely miserable. I then went back to my room and sulked for hours. Notice that both of these incidents talked about pouring drinks on people? Yeah, that was really on Elliot's mind. Another incident happened on the following day, near the same location. I went to the Starbucks at the Camino Real Marketplace by myself, like I usually did every morning. I ordered my coffee and sat down on one of their chairs to relax. A few moments later, when I looked up for my drink, I saw a young couple standing in line. The two of them were kissing passionately. The boy looked like an obnoxious punk. He was tall and wore baggy pants. The girl was a pretty blonde. They looked like they were in the throes of passionate sexual attraction to each other, rubbing their bodies together and tongue-kissing in front of everyone. I was absolutely livid with envious hatred. When they left the store, I followed them to their car and splashed my coffee all over them. They were in the throes of passionate sexual attraction to each other. I always liked that line. Maybe Elliot's true calling was writing trashy romance novels and he just never found it. The boy yelled at me and I quickly ran away in fear. I was panicking as I got into my car and drove off, shaking with rage-fueled excitement. I drove all the way to the Vons at the Fairway Plaza and spent 3 hours in my car trying to contain my tumultuous emotions. I had never struck back at my enemies before, and I felt a small sense of spiteful gratification for doing so. I hated them so much. Even though I splashed them with my coffee, he was still the winner. He was going home to have passionate, heavenly sex with his beautiful girlfriend, and I was going home to my lonely room to sleep alone in my lonely bed. I had never felt so miserable and mistreated in my life. I cursed the world for condemning me to such suffering. At this point, Elliot was escalating. He was about to become 20 and was desperate to lose his virginity before then. On one of my last days as a teenager, I was sitting at my usual place at the food court outside Domino's. I saw a sight that shattered my heart to pieces. A tall, blonde, jock-type guy walked into one of the restaurants, and at his side was one of the sexiest girls I had ever seen. She too was tall and blonde. They were both taller than me, and they kissed each other passionately. They made me feel so inferior and worthless and small. I glared at them with intense hatred as I sat by myself in my lonely misery. I could never have a girl like that. The sight was burned into my memory, and it caused a scar that will haunt me forever. When they walked away, I followed them in my car for a few minutes, and when they entered a less inhabited area, I opened my window and splashed my iced tea all over them. It was all I could do at the time, but at least it was something. At least I made some effort to fight back against the injustice. I felt sick with hatred that night. The hatred boiled inside me with burning vitriol. At this point, Elliot would get yet another set of roommates, and let's hope things went better for him this time. August 5th came quickly, and I prepared myself to be in a pleasant mood to meet them. Their names were Ryan and Angel, and to my dismay, they were of Hispanic race. In addition, the two of them were already friends with each other, which meant that they could possibly gang up against me if any conflicts were to arise. They also seemed like rowdy, low-class types. My first impression of them soured me, but I tried to be pleasant and not show it. The two of them acted cordial to me on the first day, but after observing them for a bit, I had a bad feeling that they would be trouble to live with. And they were to be my housemates for a whole year. When I was alone in my room, I panicked to myself at how dire of a situation this was. This was extremely disappointing. I was hoping I would get decent, mature, clean-cut housemates. Instead, I got low-class scum. Yeah, I don't think this was ever going to work out. He was so ready to hate anyone he had to live with. On the second day, they started inviting their equally rowdy friends into my apartment, and we exchanged more small talk. To my indignant surprise, they asked me the question I always dreaded answering. Are you a virgin? I admitted that I was a virgin. I always admitted the truth about this. It was my life struggle, and I couldn't lie about such a thing. They then had the audacity to tell me that they lost their virginity long ago, bragging about all the girls they had slept with. I particularly hated Angel because of his ugly pig face. How could such an ugly animal have had sexual experiences with girls, and yet I haven't? What was wrong with this world? I got so angry that I went to my room and punched the wall. They heard me and started laughing. It was almost a repeat of what I experienced with that black boy named Chance in the old apartment, except this time it was worse because these were my housemates for the year. Man, I can understand having problems with your roommates, but I can't really imagine not lasting a single day without messing things up this badly. I guess that's what happens when you're going to be racist. It's still cringy to ask your roommates if they're virgins, but this is Elliot Rodger we're talking about, so he probably said something weird that made it really obvious. On the day after, I almost got into a physical fight with Angel. The ugly pig kept acting as if girls thought he was more attractive than me. Ha! I am a beautiful, magnificent gentleman, and he is a low-class, pig-faced thug. I had enough of his cocksure attitude, and I started to call him exactly what he was. I tried to insult him as much as I could, telling him how superior I am to him and saying he was low-class. He tried to attack me, but Ryan, being the more mellow of the two, held him back. A pity. I was itching for a chance to hurt that obnoxious little animal. Though I suppose it was for the best. My life was too important to risk doing anything rash. His life was too important to risk doing anything rash. What a line. This was before he came up with the day of retribution, obviously, but still. So he called his mom crying and got her to pay $100 more for a bigger room, but he had to sit through a month of his current living situation. I don't think I've ever called anyone low class in my life, and Elliot has done it so many times now in this writing. I would only stay in Santa Barbara during the weekdays, but on those weekdays, Angel and Ryan went out of their way to make my life a living hell. Every time they went out, they kept yelling to me how they're going to sleep with hot girls that night. I knew they were just lying to make me jealous. They always made fun of me for being a virgin. At night, they frequently made noise to wake me up. I was literally being bullied, and it was truly horrific. I wanted to kill them both, but of course I was smart enough to not go through with that desire. All I could do was remember every single insult so I can get revenge in a more efficient way in the future. That is who I am. I don't act stupidly or rashly. I remember every insult, and I wait until the time is right to strike. When that time comes, I will crush all of my enemies in the most devastating and catastrophic way possible, and the results will be beautiful. You know, I'm guessing this might partially explain why he stabbed his roommates so many times when he did it. But of course, they were different people. Let's cover one more incident that occurred on one of his weekend visits home. It's crazy how he went to so much effort to go to this college, and now he was spending as little time there as possible. This time, we chose to eat at Panda Express. While we were eating, some high school kids walked in. James saw them first, and right when he saw them, he said the words, "We're fucked." James knew I would have trouble with them. They were popular boys who had a flock of pretty girls with them. One of them sat down with two of the girls, putting his leg up on another chair with a cocky smirk on his face. I was livid with rage, and I wanted to pour my drink all over his head. James knew exactly what I was planning to do. We had been through similar incidents before. He made a lot of effort to try to dissuade me from acting on my anger, pointing out that there was a security guard nearby. I did the only thing I could do. I packed up my dinner and left the restaurant, fleeing in defeat and shame. James soon followed, and we decided to finish our meal at his house. This was his oldest friend, James, and this incident would lead to their friendship finally ending. Okay, let's read a few online posts from Elliot, and then I'm going to call it a day. We're not done with the series yet, though. Seriously, today at my college, I saw this short, ugly Indian guy driving a Honda Civic, and he had a hot blonde girl in his passenger seat. What on earth is up with that? I would climb Mount Everest 10 times just to have a girl like that with me. I drive a BMW coupe, and I've struggled all my life to get a girlfriend. What's wrong with this world? Does anyone else get disturbed and offended when you see sights like this? Someone makes sense of this ridiculousness. You know, I respect a Honda Civic that someone paid for more than a BMW their rich parents gave them. I'm not a blonde college girl or anything, but some of them might feel that way too. One more. And even if you hate bullying, this post is going to make you want to shove this kid into a locker. I laugh at those two losers in this thread who called me an average-looking manlet. It's so ridiculous that I'm laughing instead of getting angry. I am a drop-dead gorgeous, fabulous, stylish, exotic gem among thousands of rocks. I'm one of a kind, completely the opposite of average. You're just jealous because I'm better looking than you, and you know it. He sounds so full of himself, but we know from reading his manifesto that he was actually pretty much the most insecure person in the world. Anyway, that's about all the time I have for you today. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you liked the video, please give it a like. If you have something to say about the Supreme Gentleman, or my video, make sure you let me hear it in the comments. If you're new here and want more about Elliot and Lucas and random nice guys on the internet, consider subscribing for more of the same. Also, big thanks to my awesome patrons who help me support myself while I make these videos. I'll be shouting them out soon here. Have a great night, everyone, and drink your coffee. Don't pour it on people.